All right, welcome those who are joining us. Welcome. Invite you as you're coming in to say from where you connecting, where you located, and if you want to share something what brought you here. So welcome, Rainer, Ulrich. Thank you for coming. We'll take just a couple minutes to give everyone a chance to connect. If you just want to put something in the chat, where are you joining us and what brought you here? Welcome from Germany, from Hanover. Thank you, Rainer. Welcome, Kisa, from Maryland. All right. And great, you learned about us through the Spiritual Innovators Lab. That's awesome. Ingo from Canada, welcome. Oh, glad you can be with your son as well at the same time. So thanks. All right. Hi, Oki, New York City. All right. All right. So glad you're here. And Ulrich joined us from Germany as well. Those who haven't seen it, go ahead and you can share where you're joining us. Anything you want to say about what brought you here? Love that you talk about curiosity. Right? That's awesome. Okay, we'll wait about 30 more seconds. We'll get started, and others will, of course, keep joining as we continue. Right. So if you're just joining us now, feel free to put in the chat your location, something you want to share about what brought you here. That would be wonderful. All right. All right, so to respect everyone's time, I know there'll be more people joining. I'm going to hand it over to my dear colleague Shana, who will just lead us and help us ground. And so over to you, Shana.
Awesome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Happy to be here. We're going to take a couple seconds here to take some deep breaths, just 3 breaths. So before we begin, we're just going to arrive in this moment together. We're going to put both of our feet on the ground. Going to let our shoulders soften. Close your eyes if you feel like it, or just lower your gaze. We're going to take a slow breath in through the nose and a longer breath out through the mouth. Again, breathing in, arriving in your body. And breathing out, releasing whatever you carry to this moment. One more breath in, making room for curiosity. And a breath out, opening to what wants to emerge between us. Okay, Jason.
Thank you, Shana. Beautiful. Right, good people. So I want to do brief introductions for the hosting team here. And I'll jump in, go first, and then others on the hosting team will just share a little bit. Our role in Soularize, as well as something that we're doing also outside of supporting the Soularize gathering and bringing many of us together. So I'm Jason here from Barcelona, Spain, and I have a role in Soularize that's related to helping design the event and supporting partnerships joining us. And one area outside of Soularize that I'm absolutely passionate about is something called E-Trek, and it's taking the ancient wisdom of the Enneagram and supporting that insight into action so that we can integrate it, so that others can integrate it into a spiritual growth process. So it's called E-Trek. So coming soon. So yeah. All right, hosting team, who wants to go next?
So I'm Shayna, and I am coming from Ventura, California. Original people of the Chumash. I'm getting very interested more and more in that space. I was actually able to meet an elder the other day. It was really awesome. My other job is I sell interactive technology for trade shows. So I'm in the trade show business. I've been in the business a long time, but I've also been working with Spencer for 25 years as a volunteer on the side, selling sponsorships and partnerships to help fund our activities. So that's my story. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cameron. I'm located in Salem, Oregon. I'm the ops manager here at Soularize, so I primarily function in logistics and administrative help. I'm very passionate about the administrative field. I actually work with a whole team of executive virtual assistants, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So outside of my time with Soularize, I'm helping to train and manage that team and keeps me pretty busy. So.
Thanks, Cameron. I'm Eugene, everybody. Hi. Coming from the Boston area, and my background is I was a former pastor in a church ministry space, but now I fall in the category of spiritual innovator. So I direct two nonprofits trying to rethink how we gather in spiritual community. And I'm playing the role of program director for Soularize. So just leading the conversation about designing the journey that we're going to be on together in a few months. And I think that's just Spencer left.
Hi, my name is Spencer Burke, and I am the producer of the event. And believe it or not, this is our 25th anniversary. It's been a pop-up over the years, just as the moments in time have been needed. And it just seems like right now, a sense of moral voice is so needed right now, the spirit of humane spirituality. Um, and what I also do outside of that is I love photography. I love the art of image making and capturing and looking and the curiosity around every corner, and then to kind of collaborate with nature and buildings and people to form and find ways of personal expression that hopefully captures the beauty of our world, but also isn't willing to shy away from the hurt and the pain as well. So just capturing the moments. Why Soularize is kind of the question a lot of people have always asked, and it's really this idea of gathering spiritual innovators, change makers, artists, network weavers, funders, to try to get us in a room. There is something that happens when we're able to gather together in person that is special, different than just being online. Like in this moment together, this is beautiful and wonderful, but we know some of the limitations that this has versus the opportunity for us to be able to, just grab each other and go, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat, or let's talk, or let's go out for a meal, whatever it might be. There is something magical about the luxury of time, the luxury of presence. And so that's what we hope Soularize does. The other part is that we tend to not focus on huge numbers. We try to just say, who is drawn? Who believes this is a place that you could be at? So we're not pushy. We don't try to sell. We don't own any publishing. You can't join Soularize. It's just a moment in time that we gather. And we focus mostly on those on the innovation curve, early innovators and early adopters, And that's kind of that place where a lot of times people kind of say, wow, I thought I was the only crazy one in the room. But in reality, we're kind of all out on that edge. We're all out trying to say, why can't this be different? And not just critique, but what we're talking about is humane spirituality in action. How do we take it into a place where we can actually create impact, give moral voice to AI, ask why justice isn't rolling down, like thunder, looking to see and reveal those who are on the edges that are really helping the arc move forward. And so that is our hope. That's our dream. And there are no green rooms. Everybody is equal in the conversation. And one of the beautiful things is no matter why someone comes, everybody tends to, over the years, have this sense that they leave with some beautiful, wonderful relationships that actually start organizations, film festivals, books, seminars. Like we don't know what'll happen. We're just trying to create the fertile ground for that to be nurtured enough to be able to move forward. And I'll tell you, I am so pleased with those who have already signed up to become a part of guiding and doing learning conversations. The voices are just amazing. And I love just to be there. So that's the part of what I love about Soularize. And I would also say the reason why now you look around in our world, and I think in this moment, there needs to be some courageous voices that stand up for those who might not have voice at this moment, who may be disenfranchised. And if we can take that opportunity to gather together and be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves, then that would be beautiful.
Thank you, Spencer. We're really, this is an invitation, and we're kind of all pursuing this as a dream for a very unique, special space and time. And we put a lot of thought and heart into the 3-day arc of our time together. And so the very first day, I'm very pleased to see Dr. Laura Calderon de la Barca on our call. We're starting our time together grounding in purpose and connection and resourcing and healing. And Dr. Laura will be our guiding voice for that first day, just realizing we're all going to be showing up with different burdens, different points of pain and disconnection. And so our first job is to arrive and to connect and to be resourced. And so that will be the focus of that first day. And then the second day, we're going to step back and widen the lens. And as I say in systems, survey the field and try to see more beyond ourselves and perhaps see more together. And so Professor Bayo Akomolafe will be our guiding voice for that second day. And so we're so excited to have this conversation with Bayo today. And then on the third day, we turn our gaze forward into the future. What is needed? What is ours to do? And that day will be guided by Dr. Shoma Vasaha from the We in the World Network. And throughout the time, Dr. Stephen Lewis, who's president of the Forum for Theological Exploration, is going to be leading and facilitating some collective conversations for harvesting wisdom in the room. So we really want this to be not a less of a sage on the stage thing and more of a community conversation where there can be connection and collaboration and, just generative things. And so with that, I'm excited to just introduce Professor Bayo, and Cameron will drop Bayo's bio into the chat. And I've been an admirer and a fan from afar for a while, Bayo, so I'm excited to just have this conversation with you. Just really appreciate your spirit of storytelling and just being in the moment and presence. And so really glad to have you here. And just wondering, what time is it in India right now?
It's 10:46.
Okay, so we're catching you at your freshest, most sharp,
I
moment
just
of
got
the
up.
day.
I just gotta.
It's so good
It's
to
a good
have
day.
you,
Thank you for having
Bayu.
me.
And my first question, wondering, is why did you say yes? Bayo, you do a lot of, I'm sure you do a lot of events and speaking engagements, and just wondering what was the thing in you that drew you to say yes and to this gathering? Um, and then we I have lots of other questions, but let's start there.
Beautiful. Um, I think I find myself attempting to contrive a response that fits the expectations of the people here. Like, oh, I said yes because
Mm,
Spencer has a great beard, or I said yes because I just loved Eugene's voice when I heard him, or Jason reminds me of Jason Bourne from the movies, or something like it could be anything, right? Um, the mystical, mysterious, non-legible, fugitive truth, and I'm not even sure it sublimates itself to the articulation of truth. It's almost like a prelingual, guttural gasp. Is I don't know. I don't
mm,
know why I said yes, but I would add to that this sentiment that I don't know that the yeses are fully ours to name, right? Maybe the yes arrived before my body did. Maybe the yes has been long gestating for some time. And I found myself articulating a yes before I even met y'all. So yeah, I'm very much in touch with that now. It is true. Spencer's beard is great, and Eugene, your voice is ASMR, and Jason is
mm,
a movie star, and Shayna and Cameron are just wonderful sisters. But the yes is more
mm.
prestigious than its utterance.
Wow. I'm really resonating with that because the yes is also ephemeral, right? We all show up
Ephemeral.
with different yeses all throughout a process, and we're
Yeah.
maybe the word that's coming to me is welcome. There's a welcome, and maybe the yes is one thing in one moment and another in another moment. Um, so thank you
Yeah.
for I have like slight chills just thinking about that. Um,
Mm.
so maybe I could just frame a little bit, offer a little bit more framing to what we'll be talking about on that second day. And the theme of that second day is finding hope. And so the intention is first day, focus on resourcing and connection and healing, focusing on those kinds of questions. And then day two, turning our attention outward. What are we seeing? Where is hope? Where do we see effective action? What is emerging in the field of people working for a more just and equitable and merciful, compassionate world? What's emerging? And so those are the kinds of questions that we're going to be holding on that second day. And I'm wondering, as you hear that, what is resonating for you about that theme of that second day, looking outward, seeing what is happening around us?
Mm. Hello. Um, oh, I first have to apologize for the guitar there. My wife put it there to make me appear cooler than I really am. I don't play the guitar. It's just a prop. It- It's like I just needed to name that quickly just in case Jason said, "You know what? I'm feeling the spirit moving. Brother, could you just play a tune for us?" And I'm like, "No." I confess my sins. It's just my wife likes to make me look cooler than I really am. But to your question, Eugene, um, some time ago, many years ago, in fact, I coined the term post-activism. Um, and I did so because I wanted to name something that was in my chest and not quite so. It wasn't entirely in my chest. It was an observation that I was thankfully able to crystallize into a question. And that question was, what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis? Um, and what that allowed me to notice is that the worn out, exhausted, persistent mythologies of agency, accountability, action, and responsivity in our times depend on an ancient binary, an old binary of thought, um, in which we have the good side and a bad side, and then the good eventually vanquishes the evil if we try hard enough, if we direct philanthropic agency to the good cause, if we gather people enough, if we get people to understand the facts enough. A lot of our politics is decided upon and magnetized to the idea that all we need to do is to convince people of the error of their ways. We can address climate change, for instance, if we just get people to understand that they're hurting their planet, right? Of course, the twist in the plot starts to become evident when we realize that we don't actually work that way. Like, you can give me all the data in the universe, and I can fully understand the consequences and nod my head and say, I get it, I get it. And I'm still caught up in patterns and what the Bible would call principalities and powers in high places, right? I'm still caught up in dimensions and logics and algorithms that exceed, precede, and supersede my sense of agency and my consent and my choices, right? Which is a very post-humanist way of thinking about the world because it forces us to contend with a very scandalous notion. And this notion is that we're not alone. And I don't mean it in the X-Files kind of way, even though that's another conversation. I don't mean it though, I don't mean that. I don't mean the jazz hands of, I mean that we truly live in a world that is intimate with itself. We are not masters of the realm. We don't sit above the world making change, tinkering with clocks and gears and
Are you
buttons,
tired?
switches.
Henry, do you want to
I'm
go
not,
to the toilet? Hmm?
it's an option. um, we don't do that. We are part and parcel of the world. I will put it in terms that are utterly simple and sublime, articulated by the great writer Chinua Achebe, who wrote Things Fall Apart. He said in his book that, I think it was The Arrow of God, that he wrote these lines. One of the characters of that book said these lines, that the impatient idealist says, give me a place to stand and I shall move the world. But there is no place to stand. We are of the earth and we must move at its pace, right? That's what I mean by post-activism, that how we organize, how we think, how we feel, how we imagine, how we do things, how we're done with, how we relate with each other, how we eat and drink and move and think and do things in the world is never reducible to us. It is always a larger vocation held by an entangling palimpsestic assemblage of bodies that precedes and exceeds us. So it is not left to us to fix the planet, so to speak, or fix the future, right? Um, and that is a humbling realization that sometimes hope can get in the way, right? I mean, the mythological accounts in those Grecian stories, um, does, at least from one interpretation, cast hope in a very suspicious role. That hope can shackle us and incarcerate us to the familiar. That we can get so enamored of a particular way of doing things that hope becomes the current and the currency that reinforces continuity along the lines we're already used to, right? So that's my question that's embedded and seeded in this clunky, unwieldy term called post-activism. The invitation is not to leave activism behind, it's to notice what activism is doing. And that is not reducible to the activist in the network. It's what the network is doing. And the network includes ancestry, intensity, money, institution, gender, um, uh, dust, pandemics, viruses, microbes. It's always the larger, more than whole that is at work. And maybe I'll just end the sentiment in this way, that given all of that jazz that I've just said, given the idea that we are caught up in larger firmaments and larger sedimentations, deeper, loamier sedimentations than our language even has a way to navigate. I think the gist for me, the transversal oblique opening, the invitation, the electrifying edge is to ask the question, where are the breaks? Where are the openings? If we're stuck in particular ways of thinking and doing things, even in our most assiduous and most persistent acts of goodness, if goodness persists as a colonizing force, if our best acts only contributes to institutionalized futures and bodies, then where are the breaks? Where are the strange openings? Where are the fugitive pathways? What is the world inviting us to listen to now?
There was so much there, and I'm I'm just trying to absorb. I feel like maybe we need like 10 minutes of silence just to kind of like take that in. Um, but as a good kind of conversation host, I should probably keep going. Um, I'm curious, what I hear you describing is a different way of seeing, a different way of being, um, that that leans into a more expansive, connected view of self, of reality, um, all that. And I'm just wondering, for somebody who might be like wrestling with that as a concept, right? Because it is not necessarily in our muscle memory to to be in the world in this way. Um, what might you say to somebody who is trying trying to see differently, trying to show up differently in the world, but may need, I don't know, a little encouragement or help, like some idea of like, how do I see better? Um, how do I lean into this invitation?
What if we are already part of the invitation? And the invitation is not some external email, ontological email that arrives in the inbox of our lives, right? Well, what if the invitation is also us? What if the thing that we haven't processed, integrated, or understood yet is part of our exiled long bodies still arriving, right? Um, Another term that I had to coin because, yeah, it's kind of an autistic thing to do, was paramorphology. And I'll just invite us to play with that term. Of course, morphology is a discipline. It's the disciplining of the body into recognizable forms. It's almost like a taxonomification or a taxonomy of the body, right? It's how we discipline the body into labels and lines and names and expectations. It's how we know the body. But I think I'm learning from my son. My son is 8 years old. He just turned 9. His name is Kea, and he's autistic. and he's my prophet. He's been teaching me a different way of seeing things. Growing up, Kea refused to look straight or directly at things, right? And I, being autistic myself, in a manner of speaking, not as autistic as he is, I found myself, and this is to my chagrin, to my eternal embarrassment, I found myself trying to gentrify him back into neurotypicality, even though this was not my stated purpose. It was a time of grief for me. He wasn't eating well. I was worried about his future. And so I found little demons whispering things through my ears like, look straight, look at the world straight, look in my eyes. I'm right here. These almost passive forms of gentrification that came through a father, no less. But my son was not available for that kind of visual modality. He was constantly drifting to the side, as if the body was not the thing in front, as if the body was more prestigious than clarity, as if the body spilled beyond its containment, right? So I had to invent a way of speaking about that, a grammatical dysfunction, if you will, that he wasn't looking at me or looking away from me. He was looking away at me, right? He was not looking at me or looking away from me. He was looking away at me. And this led to my concept of paramorphology, that the body is beside itself, that the body exceeds the body, if you will, that every form has a speculative life beside it, that for form to violently persist within lines of precision, it needs speculative life. Something echoes. There is a ghastly, ghostly besideness to every form that successfully coalesces, right? And this allows me to think about the world differently. It allows me to wonder if we focus too entirely on us getting it, right? On the individual self, the good citizen subject, that it's about you doing the work, or it's about you figuring your salvific journey out. It's about you knowing things, right? I'm not despising or dismissing or flattening the goodness of knowing stuff, but I can no longer, as a Black studies scholar or a process philosopher or a poet of the imaginal, linger in the myth or in the legends of our immaculate beings, right? I have to look to the side because my son is teaching me to look to the side. And how I would use that to respond to your question, my brother Eugene, is to say that I think the invitation, the thing we're looking for, is already here with us. It could be an ancestral pain in the neck. It could be a gasp. It could be something we don't have a language for. I call them cracks in my cosmopoetry, that they're cracks. And these cracks are enlisting us. We are part of its para-ontology. We are part of its movements, its breathing, its sign, right? So we're participating in it already. The question about what to do with it is a larger question and a more difficult one to hold. But I do think that beyond, oh, I need you to get it, because I'm not really interested in people getting what I say. I had a sister, Adrienne Marie Brown, ask me in an interview recently. She was like, "By the way you write is dense. It's dense philosophy." And I have a number of people who have written or said to me that I don't get what Bayo says all the time. So I'm going to ask you a question now, Bayo. Who are you writing for? Who are you writing for? And I said, sister, the question of who I'm writing for is like asking, um, who are you farting for? I don't know how to direct farts to, I just do it. It's just the dignified thing to do, right? It's not directed at anyone. Pardon me if there are ladies and gentlemen here. I'm not one of those, but I don't know how to direct things in that way. So I feel in the spirit of things that our work is not to get things, that's important, but there's something else in the room that W.E.B. Du Bois uh, might think of as double consciousness, and that might lead us to different approximations of what the world is doing that is not reducible to steady lives, stable selves, or stable choreographies.
Thank you for sharing some of your story. And there's just so much richness in what you shared with us. I wish we can go on, and I could listen to you for days. And like I, lots of lots of notes that I'm going to go back to and wonder what the heck was he talking about about this thing. Um, but maybe just a closing question, because it sounded like there was so much, you were unpacking the word hope for us just earlier. And maybe there's some shadow sides to that word that all of us might bring to it. Um, I wonder if you could just say just a few words about, okay, then what does hope mean to you? Um, and maybe that's a setup for us to continue sitting with that question for that day when we're gathered.
Yes. You know, I'm writing 3 books at the moment now together. It's exciting work. But one of my most precious and vulnerable moments is starting the book. I get very, writing is my religion. I get very, very stuck on the first sentence of the book. It has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And speaking of perfect sentences, I don't think you can get any better than the sentence that starts "The Salt Eaters" by Toni Cade Bambara. Ah, the question is so theoretically dense, significant, and beautiful. She asks, and this is the opening line, "Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well?" I love it. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? What a way to start a book, right? And named that here because of I named that because of the way it sits with me these days. It's almost like she's asking, are you sure, sweetheart, that you want hope? Right? And again, this is not a dismissal of hope. It's just to notice the larger politics of hope and what it does and what it excludes and what it makes possible, right? In the 1960s, in 1968, I think Martin Luther King was in the home of his friend. What's his name? Oh, I can't believe my brain is forgetting. Harry Belafonte. Sorry. How could I forget? Um, and Harry was hosting him in New York, I think, in a party or some kind. And he noticed Martin Luther King was despondent and wasn't himself. And so he approached him and said, "What's up, brother?" And Martin Luther King went on this, according to Harry, right? Harry's told this story. He started to wax poetic about what the movement had achieved, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1964, 1965, under Lyndon Johnson and Hubert Humphrey, the Poor People's Campaign, all of that. Black people were getting their stuff. They were moving in, right? They were being recognized, so to speak. There were limited victories, but victory nonetheless. And so Martin was speaking about that. Dr. King paused and said, he had a moment of a pregnant pause, and he said, we're achieving all of this. But why do I feel we're integrating into a burning house? Right? Why do I feel we're integrating into a burning house? 7 days later or thereabout, he was killed in Memphis. It's almost like he was coming to touch the edges of hope. This was a moral technician, and for decades he had articulated this idea for years, not decades, but he had articulated this idea that the arc of the universe, the moral arc of the universe, is long and it bends towards justice. And now he was questioning what it bent into. He had invited his people to have hope, but now he was questioning the choreography of hope, right? I do not dismiss hope at all. We need hope. We need hope to pay our bills, to bring our politicians to order, to probably hope that our football teams proceed beyond, the should I do this? No, I'm not doing this. Proceed beyond the phone call to the FIFA president. We hope for a lot of things, right? Um, and at the same time, hope reveals its true edges when it starts to circle back upon itself and walk around in circles and starts to, like a carousel, restore the very dynamics that led to us hoping in the first place. When hope and hopelessness become twins and restore and preserve and incarcerate us to a machine of repetition, then something else is needed. Something that breaks and cracks open the edifice of restoration or repetition or sameness. And I don't have a name for that yet. Maybe it's a gasp, maybe it's a stutter, but it's something fugitive and obsidian and black, not because it's an identity, but because it's cosmological. It doesn't fit within the categories we understand. It's holy. And I think finding hope is just the first step to knowing this other thing that wants to take us to places we don't know yet.
And we all need to take a deep breath after that, just to hold. Bayo, thank you so much for being with us. And we have our first mistake was only allowing 45 minutes for this call. So I'm going to, obviously it's late for you. And so if you need to sign off, we want to, offer that respectfully and with much gratitude. If you'd like to stick around, please, of course, we'd be more than happy to continue conversation with you, but you're free to go. And I'm going to ask for consent from the group for us to extend the time a little bit more, just so we can have a little bit of debrief and further conversation. If you need to sign off, thank you so much for joining us. We'll communicate more. Make sure you follow Soularize on social media. Make sure you're signed up for the newsletter and of course register, and you'll find all that information on the website. But if anybody would like to just stick around and continue just interacting a little bit more, we would love to do that. And yeah, and then we'll kind of do our best to just process a little bit some of the questions and ideas that you have shared with us. So Bayo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
And
so much. I just want to tell folks that my
yeah,
daughter is about to turn 13. Teenage. She's been reminding me for years that she's about to become a teenager. So my wife and I are preparing a very elaborate surprise party for her. And I would need to just moonwalk out of the room and do that with your
yeah,
permission and grace and
yes,
blessing. But thank
of
you.
course, of course. Happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. I'm going to hand it over to Jason and Shayna.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, everyone, so in the moments we have, we want to create some space for all of you, for us together, and really just open it up for sharing in this field. What's stirring? What's where's the energy you might have given what you heard from Bayo. What kind of questions? What inspired you? What challenged you? What confused you? What anything? Just want to open it up some space, and for you just to share. There's no right or wrong. We just want to learn from one another and work with the gifts of what Bayo has brought in his in his presence.
Just chopping at the bit, I have to say, I love that quote from Things Fall Apart. I mean, that was just a magical beginning with the we are of the earth and we must move at its pace.
Beautiful.
Impatient idealist, like that. Like, I'm just gonna ruminate on that for a while.
Thank you, Shana. Beautiful. Laura, do you want to share? I see your hand up, so I'm just make sure.
Yes, I did, Jason. Thank you. And hi, everyone. Lovely, lovely, lovely to be here. Yeah, I can feel in my body the forces of dissolving that I think Bayo so powerfully and poetically brings to us as an invitation to not be part of repeating the actions, the ways of thinking, the ways of being that have led us to the place we're in right now, in terms of all the, the oppression, the destruction, and how well those forces disguise themselves as what we really long for. And how in our longings there are things that we really would love to have that are authentic and that are good in themselves. And what better place for shadowy things to hide behind, and how things, light and shadow go together. So just this deep, not just reminder, but like an invitation for a much deeper level of awareness of that, and I can feel the forces of dissolving and the fear that comes in me and the excitement for what might be on the other side. And it's scary, the journey there, and what I might need to give up, and what might be actually really painful to give up, and what beauty lies in the process. What might I discover of myself, of my friends, of other humans, of those I hate, of those I despise, of like just this opening up of the quote unquote order that I've been living in and that we have been living in. And how what we're looking for is already here. And this whole complexity that can be so confusing and so holy. I think he did a masterful job of kind of laying that invitation to us. And I'm also excited to respond from my part of what I've offered the blessing of holding, in this space. And, how do we prepare for facing that uncertainty, that dissolution? How much can we ground ourselves in love and in this trust of life and trust of spirit, when in the moments where we cannot very easily see or grasp onto something, actually what's needed is the letting go, right? So is there a letting go into love that can mean things also get painful, but that's not necessarily that they're not loving? Can we do that together and let that other thing that is orchestrating this, from a level of intelligence that is beyond my grasp, and I think our grasp, with humility and with courage.
Beautiful.
Thank you, and I'm so glad I'm here with you guys, because it's challenging to face those things on one's own.
Thank you for sharing. Who else? Who else said something? How did this? What touched you? What impacted you? What
There's Kissa.
challenged you?
Kissa.
Oh, yes. Apologize for not being on camera. I just thought, especially in follow-up to what Dr. Lara just shared, is the idea that even hope has a shadow.
Mm,
And following up on what Professor Bayo said about, Dr. Martin Luther King, if that he even asked, are we integrating into a burning house? That really struck something. And
mm,
also this idea that hope can keep us shackled to a tradition, to something, an expectation that may not be serving our higher or our best good. And
mm,
so, again, as he mentioned, this idea of where's the break? Where is the space that hasn't been explored? And trusting to be led to that space if you're the invitation to find it, if you're being invited to find it, and having the courage to let go and let that happen
mm,
and kind of enjoy the jump as much as possible, knowing that you'll be caught.
mm,
If you keep that intention, that was very, very insightful, very beautiful to me. Thank you so much.
Kisa, thank you so much. Yeah, where's the break? Where's the space? Where's the courage to let go? Okay, over to you. Thank you so much for sharing in
Yes.
advance.
Hi, friends. I feel very full
Mm,
right now in all the best ways. And
mm,
when Bio is talking about just like what if the way that we respond to the crisis is sometimes a part of the crisis, like I really feel that deeply in my body. And I mentioned in the chat, but I've really been intentional about living a life of ease and celebration. And I had to take a step back and I had to look away from a lot of things to cultivate that. And now I saw that
mm,
by stepping into ease and celebration, there's actually more capacity, there's more power to do things with. And so now that I'm stepping back into collective action, I'm like, hmm, wrestling is not the right word, but I'm running up against that because I come in with a lot of power. I got a lot of energy, but then in having to, in the ways that we're looking at what is happening around, I feel like the power deplete and then
mm,
I'm just depressed and then I can do nothing. And so I'm thinking, holding that as I come into space and thinking about like living it. Like we could talk about it and there were beautiful words, but how do we live in it? And I had this moment, even in the conversation, where he said something, it was so much. And then Eugene is like, wow, I could really pause with that, but I'm gonna keep going. And I was like, what if you paused? I know we want to hear a bio and like good words, but what if we paused? What if we were full and that was all we needed for the 45? So just different things are sparking of how we actually live
mm,
into it beyond talking about it.
Thank you, Oki, so much. How do we live into it? And what if we pause? These are great. Mm, beautiful. Anyone else have something that touched you that you're willing to just share? No right or wrong. We won't debate it, just what's true for you. It's just been stirred up. We're just honoring whatever that might be. What inspired you? What touched you? What challenged you? Anyone else? Well, we honor everything spoken and unspoken as well, everything planted. We want to shift for a minute and I'll hand it over to Shayna, but given our time, we'd like to uh, share a few things in terms of possible invitations, next steps, just to make sure everyone's has a shared awareness. So Shayna, over to you.
I think we are just going to end with, putting a word of, where are you finding hope, or actually to reframe probably now after we've heard from Bio, maybe where is hope getting in your way? I don't know. You just put that in the chat and we can kind of ruminate on that. And I think that's pretty much it, huh? We went over, but what great convo. Oh, I was just, I mean, Bayo, this is my second time listening to him. It's just like you just want to close your eyes and let all, you don't get it all. You only get a piece of it, but it feels like medicine, you know? It feels like medicine.
Mm.
If I might say, like, I loved what you were saying, Oki, is that the problem is in a meeting like this, there's an agenda, there's what, but when we're in the presence of each other, the ability to be able to say, no, let's stop. Let's go into the hopelessness because hope's not there without the, so I think that's part of the power of gathering together. And so if any of you can make it, we would encourage you to consider coming to be a part of the gathering, because that is where we as a community, it's a smaller gathering, where we're able to kind of think about this. And I also just want to say to Dr. Laura, like, this is the thing that happens. Like, here, she is a guide for the first day. She's on the call today. You know what I mean? Like, it becomes community, it becomes family, it becomes life, and so that's really kind of the invitation, I would say. So, but it's just wonderful to hear everyone's responses today. And so thank you for all sharing today.
Wonderful. So we also have another kind of a pre-event gathering on August 12th with Dr. Shomova Saha. And so we want to welcome you all to come back together on August 12th and to hear her sharing as well and to reflect and be together then. So please, again, if you've registered for this, you're automatically, I will receive an invitation and we hope you can make it then.
Yeah, and Jason, I forgot one other thing. Yeah, tickets go up tomorrow. I think tomorrow. So like there's like a early bird price for the Soularize event. So if you're thinking about going, you're pretty sure you're going, I'd buy tickets before tomorrow. But no pressure. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't go up a ton, like maybe $50 or something, or maybe it's 100. I don't know. Anyways, check it out.
Okay. Thank you. And one other quick invitation before we close, also learning conversations. So each of you are invited to apply to a learning conversation, and there'll be a subset of registrants or participants who really have something that they feel this needs to be shared now in service to mutual learning at Soularize. And so we invite you to share what you feel needs to be shared through what we call a learning conversation. It'll be 90 minutes, about 20 minutes of kind of framing and sharing, and then some design of interactive mutual learning during the session based on what you shared. So all topics are welcome. And so if you'd like to do that, we'll put the kind of application form link in the chat as well, and you can grab that link and you feel called to share your gifts and vision and insights and support others in facilitated session, please do so. So one more invitation. All right. Great. So checking out, go ahead and put in the chat maybe something where you're finding hope these days, as Sheena said.
Or where hope is getting in the way. I like
or
that.
Or where hope's in giving the way.
Getting in the way.
For Bayo's challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Conversations like this, beautiful. Thank you, Barbara. Finding hope in the inner beauty of human beings in my life. Beautiful. But Laura, hope gets in the way when I don't examine where I bypass hopelessness. Beautiful. And I find hope in our courage to look at this together. Thank you. I need hope in being willing to be challenged. That today is not tomorrow. Thank you, Spencer. Hope itself might be far bigger than what we can get or grasp. Thank you, Jean. Beautiful. All right, good people. Thank you for your presence today and for this gift of being together, even in this moment. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.